Hey everybody, it's MotherGoose27 and welcome back to my channel. So, today we are talking about a series that I watched the first episode and it just didn't interest me at all. And then I spent years without watching it, and then I finally watched the second episode, and then the third, and then the whole series. And I got super addicted. So, I finally watched Bojack Horseman. As usual, I'm going to be breaking this up into certain parts. I'm going to give my general thoughts, then I'm going to talk about what the series did really well, then I'm going to talk about how the series made me feel, then I'll give some final thoughts, and we'll get out of here. As usual, spoiler warning. Bojack Horseman was a fantastic show. It was put together really well. It was a episodic series, and yet every episode to me just felt like it pushed the series forward, either in plot or character development or just little random details, and everything felt important. There's things that happened in early seasons that were brought up and touched on later on further seasons, and I just thought that was done really well. The team that made Bojack Horseman put a lot of love and care into the series. If you haven't seen it, I definitely would recommend it. I know that was kind of just a really short general thoughts area, but I really want to get into what this series did well. I think this is one of the best series I have ever seen in terms of setting something up, it not happening where you thought it would happen, and then it happens later. Bojack Horseman sets up all these really horrible things, and you're just sitting there so anxious, and then it doesn't happen, and you're like, oh, good. You let your guard down, and then it happens. So, a couple examples of this would be the premiere of Filbert. Bojack and Diane get in a pretty heated argument, and I was convinced towards the end that he was going to physically harm her. He was just so angry, drugged out, not in the right headspace. I really thought he was going to hurt or kill Diane. And then it didn't happen. He's grabbing her arm, she's asking him to let her go, and he does. And then either an episode later or a couple episodes later, there is a very similar scene with Bojack and his girlfriend. I believe it's Gina. I apologize if I got her name wrong. As she finds his pills and is confronting him about it, and a big argument ensues, and it's kind of split between them at the house and them at their film set, which I will talk about here in just a moment. But then he starts choking her, actually choking her. He loses control and almost kills her. And just the way it was done, obviously it's a horrible thing, but the way the writers did it, I thought was very powerful. Another example of this is the Penny scene. Obviously a horrible, horrible thing that Bojack does, but we get this first initial scene with Penny as she comes on to him, and he rejects her. And when it happens, you're like, Bojack, no, you can't do this. She's only 17. And he turns her down, and there's that sense of relief, like, oh, good, he made the right decision. And then what happens with Charlotte happens. She ends up rejecting him. He goes back, and Penny's there. And nothing happens between them, but it almost does. And again, it's this horrible, horrible thing, and I bring that up because, like I said, the show does a great job at making you think this horrible thing's gonna happen. It doesn't happen. Once you let your guard down, it happens, and there's just so much emotional impact from that. And I don't think I've seen many shows that have done that, at least that well. Just a moment ago, we were talking about the Gina incident where it was transitioning between the house and the film set, and that all took place in season 5, and that was one of my favorite seasons because we get to see Bojack acting as this character Filbert, but Filbert lives in a house that looks exactly like Bojack's house. And on top of that, Bojack never takes his costume from the show off. So we've got Bojack in this detective's outfit in these two places that look exactly the same, and it does an amazing job at transitioning between the two locations, because we'll have Bojack as Filbert on the film set, and he's talking and he's acting out the scene, and then it just seamlessly cuts, and they're at his house having a completely different conversation, but the way it was animated and edited, you never notice the change until it's obvious. And it goes back and forth through that whole season. And it's just really, really unique and interesting and engaging. And it creates a lot of moments like the Gina fight. Or, I'm sorry, not fight, but the Gina attack, where they're seamlessly going through their argument, and the argument that Filbert, and I can't remember the detective's name on the show, and then it all happens. Bojack Horseman is just filled with so many unique things like that. Like, that was just season 5, but each season is unique and interesting, and you never know what you're going to get. Like, there's one episode where he's promoting his film in an underwater city, and he's got a helmet on, and he doesn't realize there's a button he can press to speak through it, and so the entire episode is basically completely in silence. And it's a really great episode. Each episode pushes the plot forward. Each episode really feels like it matters, and you don't really get that a lot in episodic series. Now let's talk about the foreshadowing for the end. Again, spoiler warning, we're talking about the end here. Bojack Horseman gets drunk, falls in his pool, and almost dies. I think we can all say we knew this was going to happen. There were quite a few moments throughout the series that foreshadowed this. I mean, the intro alone always ends with him falling in a pool. But then there's all the comments about Bojack and his character from horsing around. They saying the horse dies at the end. That is said several times throughout the series. But then there's also the parallels between Bojack and Secretariat, who, in this universe, Secretariat kills himself by jumping off a bridge into the ocean and dies. And so there is a lot of foreshadowing towards this moment, and then we actually get it. And it is an incredibly powerful moment because Bojack had sobered up. Most of season 6, I believe. Yeah, most of season 6, we actually get to see Bojack sober and living a good life, or trying to be a better person overall. And then he slowly starts drinking again, and then we get this really powerful scene with the executive producer of Horsing Around, who ruined his life, who convinced him to betray his best friend, and she reveals that she was bluffing. Not only did that have a ton of emotional impact on Bojack, but it really hurt the relationship between Bojack and Herb, and they didn't talk until Herb had almost passed. And it was a horrible interaction when they did talk, and all of that was based on a lie. And so we see him drinking a lot. He goes back to his house. His house isn't his house anymore. He lost it. He couldn't afford it anymore. He's drunk, and he falls in the pool face up. And then it goes to the last episode. There is not 1, not 2, but 3 fake outs that he died. And then we see that he isn't dead. And honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that ending. Obviously, all that foreshadowing did pay off. He did fall in the pool. He almost died. I think it would have been a lot more powerful if he did die. If the last episode was what the world looked like without Bojack Horseman. I mean, don't get me wrong. I liked the ending. He ended up going to prison, but he got sober, and then there's a really powerful wedding scene where he goes to Princess Caroline's wedding, and they dance, and he has a really sweet moment with Princess Caroline, Todd, and Diane, and the show ends with him and Diane just looking at the stars on top of a roof like they've done so many times. And the creators' envisioning for this was to just show that Bojack's no longer alone. And that is a really powerful, really important, and really good message. But at the same time, I think it would have been a lot more powerful if he had died. The whole series is a commentary on celebrity culture, the downfall of fame, and the dangers of it, and drugs, alcohol, all of that, and it really does it well. And I think to just cap off that whole message, like I said, I think it would have been more powerful if he did die in the end. Let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think he should have died in the end? And the last thing I want to talk about is Todd being asexual. I am not asexual, so I don't know if I'm the best person to really talk about this, but I honestly felt like it was handled really well. And if you're asexual and you disagree, please let me know. It wasn't something that was just stated right away. It was gradually hinted and foreshadowed at earlier on until we got an official reveal, and then we got to actually see some of the struggles that he had to go through, and then we get to see him actually find love, and I just think that's really awesome, and I'm glad they included it, because diversity just makes stories better. Okay, let's talk about how this show made me feel. This show, while it was really good, made me feel like crap. This show made me so sad, and like emotionally put me in a very bad place, because it really showed the dark side of humanity and how bad things could get and how depressed people can be. It dealt with a lot of death, it dealt with a lot of substance abuse, it dealt with a lot of actual abuse. This was a dark show. Like I said, it is a commentary on celebrity culture and how bad things can get. I really thought I was going into like just a funny, haha, lighthearted comedy. I did not expect it to be such a dark series. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of funny moments and there's a lot of great things. The characters are great. It's written really well. The animation style is great. It is a good series. I'm not trying to say it's not. But it's very real and it's very dark, and when something feels so real, it's hard to separate it from real life. And so overall, I'm glad I watched it. It was a great experience, but it's something I don't think I'll watch again because I don't really like how I felt while watching it, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not trying to downplay this show in any way or say it's bad. It's an amazing series, but I don't think I was prepared emotionally for it. Okay, final thoughts. I would give Bojack Horseman 8 out of 10. Really great series, and like I said, animation's good, the writing was good, the characters were great. It's done things I really haven't seen other series do, and I really enjoyed watching it. At the same time, like I mentioned, I don't know how I feel about the ending. I really don't. Like, I'm really happy that he lives, but I also think it probably would have had more impact if he did die in the end. And 2, made me feel like absolute poo-poo while watching it. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Really good series. I definitely would recommend watching it. Just be prepared for what it contains. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to join the flock, and I will see you in the next one. Mother Goose out.